Ja, hjertelig velkommen til et nytt program av Israel Live. I dag befinner jeg meg i Samaria. Vi er på et hotell i Ariel, det eneste jødiske hotellet i hele Samaria. Og nå skal vi ta turen. Vi er en liten gruppe fra Kanal 10 som er på tur nå, så vi skal få en omvisning oppe på et sted som heter Bet Horon. Der skal vi møte en dame som heter Yehudit, eller Yehudit om du vil kalle henne det, Tayar. Det er en veldig spesiell dame. Hun jobber som ambulansesjåfør og sikkerhetsoffiser i hæren. Hun har... Ja, du skal få møte henne selv. Jeg skal ikke fortelle for mye nå, for hun har virkelig et hjerte som kommer til å berøre deg. Det tror jeg. Det berørte oss veldig når vi fikk lov til å møte henne. Hun har sterke historier å fortelle, og det er virkelig nyttig informasjon for oss å ta med oss, spesielt med tanke på at i sekulære media kommer så lite informasjon ut om hva er det som egentlig foregår inne i Samaria-området. Så la oss ta en tur sammen med resten av teamet på Kanal 10, og så snakker vi med Yehudit.
The heroes in Hanukkah, in the Maccabees, each of these 8 that fell trying to save their friends in arms. Ohad went in 5 times to try and save his friends, and then he was shot and murdered and killed. But on Hanukkah, we light the Hanukkah menorah here. This is the names of the brave soldiers that fell in that battle. And ironically, there's 8 of them, just like the 8 days of Hanukkah. He grew up with my children. And thank God we have to go on, and we have to remember, and we have to try and do good in their memory. And when we come here, also the Golani Brigade comes here on Hanukkah, and they have a race here, and we have a race in memory of him on Hanukkah also. I think they know me. And I saw so many horrible things happening. I have faith in the Lord, and I made a promise to the Lord of Israel to fill myself with love for the Lord and to try and do good. And if I filled myself with hate, they win, those who hate us. But we have faith, and we see, with the pain, we see miracles. I mean, we see so much, just the fact that we're standing here today, and I can talk that here in our community, we are 3 generations. My husband's mother is a survivor of the Holocaust. She survived Bergen-Belsen, may she rest in peace. And when you see, despite everything, to lift yourself up and to continue, that's what we have to do. And we feel so grateful, and this is with me all of the time. This is the Bible that we received at the Kotel, at the Wailing Wall, before we got our weapons as the Israeli Defense Forces. And it's the symbol of the Israeli Defense Forces. And what's written to us, this is all of the different various branches of the Israeli Defense Forces. And it's the only army in the world that's Israeli Defense Forces. And it's written by the chief rabbi of the Israeli Defense Forces. Soldiers of Israeli Defense Forces, there are 3 things that the world stands on: Torah, work, and charity. Dear soldiers, this book of books is a source of life and inspiration, and it is like the pillar that goes before the camp. It is my hope and faith that this book of books of the Torah will be with you day and night, and from the book of Judges in the Bible, go in your strength and save Israel. And thank God, it's such a privilege. I remember standing there and thinking, I have such a privilege to come and defend my people and my country, and not only for those who live here, but for those who are all over the world. They know we have a state of Israel and they can be safe because of that. And it's a great privilege. And we're standing in a place, this is the history. This is the history of our nation from the time of Joshua, from the time of Abraham. Abraham went down this road to go up to Hebron. And we're here, and we have over 400 families, thank God, that are living here. And when I see the children and the children of the children, it's truly a miracle. And yes, we have things that have been very sad and very painful. And
because it's recently something sad happened here. Tell me about it.
2 nights ago, there was a terrible accident in the north, in the Golan Heights. And in a military exercise, a tank rolled over, and one of our young men, Avshalom Yitzchak, was killed along with another one, and 3 more were injured. And today we're going to be going to the funeral because one of his brothers was in Thailand. So the family waited for him to come home today. And he was a giver. He was always volunteering, always giving. He loved the youth. He worked with the youth in Bnei Akiva, the religious Zionist organization that we have. And even when he was in the pre-military academy, he came back and he was working with the kids. And when I think of him and I see the smile, and that's what my friend that I was hugging before, just thinking of Avshalom, you think of this smile and the love. And that's what we have to do. We have to fill ourselves with love, because that's the only way to go on. Because if we collapse, then who's going to go on? And thank God we have faith, and we have the belief that this is our history, and we're here, and we have generations after generations, thank God, in this land, and you're with us, and we appreciate it so much. And it doesn't matter if you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew. We're all his children.
Yeah. And that's very strong, because like brother said, love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, and then love your neighbor as yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very strong. Behind us we have a synagogue.
Yes, this is the main synagogue. We have several others here. And thank God you see 4 generations here. From the founders, their children, their children's children, and it's a miracle. It's literally a miracle that you can see 4 generations that are growing up here, going to the school here, going to the army, contributing, and there's a religious youth organization here, Bnei Akiva, that I myself, when I was young, I was a counselor and one of the leaders, and to teach about love, to teach about caring, to teach about our history, to study the portions of the Bible, and it's a blessing. We feel so blessed to be able to do this and listen to the birds.
Yeah.
That's something we didn't have when we moved here.
Tell me something about yourself, Yehudit. I know you are an ambulance driver and also a security officer.
Well, I had the privilege of serving in a special unit in the military, and I had a very, very special privilege in 1993, even though I was one of our spokespeople in the settlement movement. I'm an artist, and I was working in art and art therapy and doing exhibits and paintings, and I get a phone call from the head of the Yesha Council, the Council of Jewish Communities in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza. Now he's Minister Uri Ariel. He's like my big brother. And he says, Yehudit, come to the office. And I'm like, what happened? He said, Yehudit, come to the office. Okay. I get there, and Brigadier General Reserve Yossi Kohler, who was the security officer of all these areas, is sitting there, and he goes to me, And I'm like, what? He says, Yehudit, you're leaving everything and going back to security. And I'm like, okay, Uri, what? He said, then we had not one ambulance in Judea, Samaria, Gaza, or the Jordan Valley. And Magen David Adom wouldn't cross the so-called green line, and it's life. And we didn't have immediate response teams. So he said, you and Yossi, Brigadier General Yossi Kohler, are going to establish the immediate response teams and bring in ambulances. And I look at him and like, okay. There was then a feeling, we don't need all of this. It's a new era. It's going to be Oslo. There's going to be peace. There's going to be love. And since we know our neighbors, and it's not even just our neighbors who really would want to live with us in peace, their so-called leadership doesn't want it. They're willing for their own people to suffer in order to try and destroy us. So ever since 93, I'm back in security and an emergency response medic and one of our spokespeople, and my husband's an angel, even though he has jokes like I'll be called up in the middle of the night. And the guys, the officers that I work with, they're like brothers. We're much like family. So he says, and where were you last night again with your brothers? And like, I can't tell you. But we met in the army, so he kind of knows me. But it's such a privilege. In order, and even though I'm a family of victims of terror, my family were murdered in Hebron in 2003. Rabbi Eli and Dina Horowitz in their home on Friday night. A team of 2 terrorists that came into the house and murdered them. And it's the same family, the Kawasmi family, that abducted and murdered our children 3 years ago. And they're still living in peace in Hebron, trying to murder us. But we have to do the opposite. We have to fill with love and do good. And people don't believe it, but if in the village they need an ambulance, if they need medical care, with the army I'll go into, I'm not talking about terrorists, I'm talking about normal people that are ill or hurt. Yeah. We go in to save their lives, and that's what the Lord wants. As an observant Jew, the first thing we do in the morning, you wash your hands and make the blessing, and then you say, I thank the Lord for restoring my breath to me. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam, shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemda raba v'emunatecha. That you restored my breath with love and faith. And that's the first thing we do. And then the last thing at night, we say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Because He's our Father. And my mother had this not joke, but joke. She said, what can you wish for the Lord our God? What? He needs money. He needs health. He should have happiness from his children. That's what we hope to do, to make him happy.
Yeah. And when we got into the entrance here, you told me about something, a terrorist attack happened there, but you saw God's finger in it. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, even though with the terrible tragedy that we had, it was last year on the Festival of Planting. It was a snowy day, so the military and the police told everybody to come back before 5 o'clock to the community. And it was like lightly snowing, and I got called out. I didn't know what at first, but I got there and I found one of our young 23-year-old girls, Shlomit, lying on the sidewalk. And I couldn't figure out why at first. And then when I turned her over, I saw that she was stabbed here. And we tried to save her, and we weren't able to save her. And one of the nursery school teachers was stabbed 9 times, and thank God we did save her. 2 young Arabs broke in with knives to try and murder us. And with the tragedy, it was truly a miracle, because right mamash next to it is the nursery school for 3 and 4-year-olds. And they were released at 4:30. And at 20 to 5, the terrorists came in and attacked. And right where I found Shlomit, we had prepared a plot of land for the babies to come, the 3 and 4-year-olds, to plant on Tu B'Shvat, on the Festival of Planting. And because of the snow, they weren't there. So even with the tragedy, all these little babies were saved. And we tried to carry on and spread the light of those that we've lost, and to do good in their memory, because that's what they want us to do. Not to, sit and harbor anger and hate, because then those who hate us will win. And I mean, the fence, we hate it. This highway that you see down here is a highway only for Arab traffic. We're not allowed on it. And you see we have a community very close to here. You can see it on the other mountain behind this mountain. You can see it from a different view. If I go in this road, it's 15 minutes, but I have to go around because I'm Israeli Jew. It takes 40 minutes to go around. And you see all of the Arab villages here. This is in English it's translated to Upper Beit Horon, Beit Or al-Fuka in Arabic. Do you see one watchtower? Do you see one fence? No, because they know that we're not going to come in and try and hurt them. And nobody talks about that. It's only about the Israeli occupation and how they suffer. And I have friends in some of the villages that I would never think of even speaking to them because they will be murdered as collaborators. And I mean, one of my friends had a baby recently in from one of the villages here. And I met somebody on the road and I sent the present so they couldn't identify that it was from an Israeli settler for his wife. Because they want to fill them with hate and they're afraid. They're afraid to have any relationship with us. But we used to, before the Oslo agreements. I apologize, but that's the truth.
We too.
We had a relationship with them, that they would come and take water when we got water, and when we got electricity and water, they got also. And that's okay because we want to live in peaceful coexistence. But those who want to live with us in peace, they're welcome. And it was a van that there were 22 young men. They did not come to do terror. They came to find work illegally. And when they saw the military, they turned around and it turned over. And I was the first ambulance there. And 2 of the young men were dead already when I got there. One I wasn't able to save. But there was one that, I don't know if I should describe. He was very, very badly injured. He'll never be able to work again. He was 22 years old from Kalkilia. It's one of the villages near here. And I'm stabilizing his situation. And he says, no, let me die. And I'm like, what is your name? He said, Mahmoud. I said, Mahmoud, do you have a family? Yes, I have a wife and 2 little boys. I said, look, I'm religious. You can't dial because his arms were amputated from the accident. But I said, what is her number? Let me call her. I'm religious, but this is an emergency. He says, no, you don't understand. If I die in your hands, I'm a martyr. You're going to take me to Jerusalem to your hospital. You're going to save me. I'm going to be sent back to Kalkilia. My family will never see money. Let me die here. And I'm like, I couldn't leave him in Karam, in the hospital, in the trauma section. I was like, Mahmoud, live. He has nothing to live for. But you have a family. But if I die, they'll have money. And this is what they teach their people, and nobody talks about it.
And this is so important information for us to know, because we have to remember in prayer both you and the Arab people suffering under that leadership.
Yes, yes, but especially them.
Yes.
I mean, how can you teach a little child to go out and murder? One of the terror attacks, a 14-year-old little girl, thank God I was taking care of the soldiers that were injured. It was just down the road here. And thank God she only injured one slightly, but they eliminated her. She came with 2 knives and a syringe of poison. And before she came to murder us, she wrote her family, I am going to be a martyr. You're going to celebrate. I'm going to murder Jews. And I'm looking at this little girl. I'm a mother. How do you teach a child to hate and kill and to die? Instead of learning, you like art, you like music, you like whatever. Do something good for yourself and for the world. And nobody talks about that. And it's a terrible tragedy for them, not only for us. Because instead of saying, oh, well, it's because the Jews are there. I don't live in that village.
You're not allowed to go in there.
No, if I go in there, they might want to kill me. But we have faith, thank God.
Yehudit, we were talking about the love of God, and I sense you have the love of God in your heart when you talk. I see it in your eyes when you're talking about the Jews and the Arabs. Tell me a little bit about that.
I think one of the most important things to remember about our faith is that we're taught to love one another and the other nations as we love ourselves. And one of our great rabbis, Rabbi Akiva, when he was being tortured, the enemy of our nation said, "Tell me in one sentence, what is the Jewish faith?" And he said, "Love everyone like you love yourselves." And that's what it's all about, because the Lord wants us to do good, and when we do good, it makes him happy. My family on my father's side came back to Israel in 1823 to Tzfat, Safed. It's up in the north of Israel in the Galilee. And there were many, many pogroms in the 1920s and the 1930s. And many of my family were murdered by the Arabs that they lived with, like they were in Hebron, like they were in... I mean, why? There was no state of Israel. There was no occupation. In Hadassah Hospital in Hebron, the nurses and the doctors were massacred. I don't even want to describe what they did to them, after they were taking care of them and treating them and saving their lives. And this whole Oslo thing is supposed to be built on what's called in English reciprocity, which is dual coexistence, that no incitement, no terror. When we came back in 1967, we didn't throw them out. We didn't make them go to Jordan. We didn't make them go to Morocco. We let them stay here with the thought of peacefully living together in the Israeli Jewish state. And if you hear their comments if there's a terror attack, if you read what they're teaching their children, the training that they have to become terrorists, you have to understand, you can continue to imagine, but you have to be realistic and realize what the truth is, what they're saying. Leave what I'm saying. I'm a fanatic settler, okay? But what they're saying, we will never accept a Jewish state. That's what the so-called leaders of the PA, of the Palestinian Authority, and when I was little, funny, not funny, my family and their documents, it said Palestine because that was the name given to this area before the state of Israel. And I remember stories of my grandfather, my great-grandfather, "We're not Palestinian, we're Hebrews. Change it to Hebrew." They hated because it was a name that was given to deny any history of the Jewish people here. But as I said, all you do is turn up the soil and you find remnants from thousands of years ago. I mean, we're living in a place here that's first mentioned here in the book of Joshua. This is the road that Abraham went on. And if you come with me, God willing, to Hebron, unfortunately after our rabbi there was murdered, Rabbi Ranan, we were allowed to do excavations in Tel Rameda. You stand there and you see the wall, the stairs of ancient Hebron in a house from 4,500 years ago of the time of Abraham. And yet they continue to deny, no, Hebron is not Jewish. Jerusalem is not Jewish. And so when they talk about a two-state solution, they're kind of ignoring what the other side that's supposed to be a partner is saying. It has to be a Jewish state, yes, to give them privileges to live in decency and honor and in love, I hope, but not to commit suicide. We don't believe in that.
Ja, dette har virkelig vært en gripende tur, og Knut, du var jo med sammen med det teamet opp på Bet Horon. Hvordan opplevde du møtet med Yehudit?
Det slo vel oss alle ut hvor gripende det var, for det var et sånt brutt hjerte over mange av de skjebnene, terroraksjonene, det å miste en soldat når en stridsvogn velta. Et lite samfunn med 400 familier, det klart når en dør da, så blir jo alle påvirket av det. Så det var veldig rørende, jeg tror at noe delte hjertet sitt, så det var ikke et tørt øye. Så jeg synes det var veldig gripende og veldig overraskende også på den hjertevarmen og mottagelsen vi fikk. Man kjente at man en stor familie. Så det var veldig gripende, og så trengte jeg også høre med en som lever i det her presset, da, hvordan de ser på dette her med tostatsløsning. Og da sa hun det at hvis de hører med lederen, tør vi virkelig ta sjansen på å gi makt til mennesker som egentlig bare er ute etter å ødelegge oss. Så det var også veldig gripende å høre hennes svar på det, for hun er glad i alle mennesker, det merker man jo.
Ja, og du merket også, det var ikke noe bitterhet å spore, og det var heller ikke noe offermentalitet. Det som bevegde meg veldig var hennes hjerte for araberne i de arabiske landsbyene.
Klart, som ambulansesjåfør så ga hun uttrykk for at hun ville redde liv, og hun var i den situasjonen hvor hun kunne redde araberes liv. Så det er klart at helt rette hjerteholdninger, synes jeg også. Veldig reflektert kvinne.
Ja. Jeg tror vi begge to kan si, Knut, at det kristne folk i Norge må huske på jødene i Samaria, og huske på Yehudit i bønnen.
Absolutt, fordi det er mennesker som hele tiden velger å ha et mykt hjerte, selv om de lider utrolig mye urett.
Jeg håper du har latt deg inspirere til å stå i bønn for både det jødiske og det arabiske folket som bor i Samaria. Det var det vi hadde på Israel Live for denne gangen. Gud velsigne deg, og så ses vi igjen.